So thank you once again, everyone, for joining us this evening. We are so excited to hear from our presenter. Presenting for tonight's Florida School Counselor Association webinar is Miss Grace Wilhelm. Ms. Wilhelm has been a school counselor for over 20 years and enthusiastically presents to counselors, teachers, parents, and youth workers on the topics of anger, stress, communication, data, and play therapy. She has been Duval School Counselor of the Year, Florida School Counselor of the Year, National School Counselor of the Year semifinalist, and has been awarded the FLPTA Parent Involvement Award, National Board of Professional Teaching Standards certification, and has achieved RAMP at 2 schools. She's written workbooks on anger and stress and has published DVDs on play therapy techniques for schools. Her speaking engagements have taken her as far as Papua New Guinea, and she has presented at the national, regional, and state levels. After all of that, she resides right here in Florida with her husband and the families of her 3 children. Mrs. Wilhelm, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're really eager to hear how you've achieved RAMP in your school counseling programs, and the floor is now yours.
Okay, thank you, Evan. Thank you so much. And I'm honored to present to you tonight and to review the RAMP components with you in less than an hour. So let's get started. The RAMP overview in less than an hour. So what is RAMP? First of all, RAMP could stand for ridiculous amounts of meticulous paperwork, but really it's reducing and managing paperwork because it gives you structure. And RAMP truly stands for Recognized American School Counselor Association Model Program. And using this model helps give you structure like a skeleton that you just fill in with all of your these components in counseling so that you have a plan, a written plan of action that you can share with your stakeholders and they can see your data. It's unique to every single school. Every single school is different. So what I did for there's 10 new components now. There used to be 12. In black, I have the new components, and in green, I have the old language or the old components. So let's just go through these so we know what's coming up and these components that I'm going to talk about tonight to unwrap it for you. Number 1 is mission and vision statements. In the old edition, the mission statement was one component and the vision and the belief statements were another component. But now the mission and vision statements are combined and there's no more requirement for belief statements. Number 2 is the annual student outcome goals. These were formerly known as the program goals. Number 3 are the mindsets and behaviors action plan. Number 4, annual administrative conference, which used to be called the management agreement. Number 5 is the advisory council. That used to be known as the school counseling advisory council. 6 is calendars. 7, lesson plans. 8 is classroom instruction results report, which used to be called the action plans. And 9 is the small group results report, which used to be called the small group action plan. And 10 is closing the gap action plan and results report. In the old edition, the last component was reflection, and that required 1,500 words on your reflection or a video. That is no longer included. Reflection is added in every single component. So knowing that there's no more 11 or reflection, I added these 4 things here: demographics, program assessment, survey data, and use of time, because without these 4 components, you cannot do components 1 through 10. They're like a prerequisite to your program, and they are needed. And nobody tells you up front, you need to do this before you can start your comprehensive school counseling program. So this is your secret information. And so I labeled number 11, the demographics of your school. 12 is your program assessment. 13 is your survey data. And 14 is your use of time, which used to be known as the time study. So first things first. Step 1 is creating a binder or a notebook and having about 16 tabs. I make a binder notebook every single year. So for the year that I got RAMP, this is what my binder looked like. So this was in the school year 18-19 for my RAMP. And I hope you can see these tabs here. And so I have a tab for each of the components. And the rubric is on a colored sheet of paper. So the first thing I'm going to see is the rubric on a colored sheet of paper. And I'm going to go over this a little bit more thoroughly. So, then I have, so 1 through 10 would be the tabs for the component. And then the other tabs would be for the demographics and program assessments and surveys, your IPI-DIPI, and maybe your community partners, and whatever else is important for your school to have a comprehensive school counseling program. I like printing the rubric on colored paper and putting it behind each tab. So this helps you to stay on track with that component and what it's about. So if you're going to apply for RAMP, you know that to get all the points for that component, you will have to follow that rubric. But as we get started, we're just going to build this skeleton and then fill it in, like putting muscle and tissue and ligaments and all that kind of thing all around the skeleton to get it going. So right here is a rubric, is the RAMP rubric that you can find at American School Counselor Association in the resources for RAMP. And there's also some templates here. So I'm just gonna pop these open and look at them so you know what they look like. All right, and you can see this okay, the rubric?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. So this is the 4th edition for the RAMP scoring rubric. And these are the papers that I copied off of the internet. And then I copied them onto colored paper, punched holes in them, and stuck them into my binder. So each one is under a separate tab. And as I go through here, there's even these little squares where you can check them off as you go to be more thorough, to make sure that you have everything in there. Okay, I'm going back to my presentation. Okay. I used the rubric from, I think this is from one of the earlier conditions, one of the earlier editions, sorry, from Trish Hatch's book. This is the School Counseling Program Assessment. It's an older version. And what I did is, I've done this for several schools. And when I go through this, the first time I go through the rubric, I did it with black ink. The second time I did it with red. And you can see, like, I started this one in October 2017. Then I checked my rubric again, January 2018, and so on, until I had the components. And I could see my progress. I wrote notes to myself as I went. And this helped me to stay on track to make sure that I was meeting the needs for every component for my school counseling program. So my experiences were in middle school. I ramped up a school there, and then I was there for 7 years. Then I went to another middle school and I ramped up that, but we did not submit our RAMP application. And then I came to this school. I've been at this school for 4 years now. So we're going to start by working backwards. Instead of going through 1 through 10, we're going to start with 11, 12, 13, and 14, because we have to do these components first before we can do the other components. So we have to know our students. So number 11, we're going to start with number 11. This is our demographics. You have to know your students, the total number of free and reduced lunch, how many boys, girls, race, percentages, ESE, gifted, speech, 504 students, ESOL, referrals for behavior, attendance data, early warning signs, etc. So all different kinds of data you're going to look at. And ASCA has a little template you can fill out, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. This is one piece of data that I pulled. This is my serious behavior data for class 1, 2, and 3 offenses. And so I just pulled that out. So I'm looking at all things. I'm looking at my school improvement plan. I'm looking at parent surveys, climate surveys, district surveys of our school compared to other schools in my district. I'm looking at some state data because I'm going to find out what are the needs. What are the needs of my school population? And so this is the form that I had to fill out for ASCA. This is the demographics form. So ASCA's question or part on the application is bold, and my answer is in the regular text. So our school has received the ramp designation previously, and I said no, and so on. So it's asking for my address. My category is E because I'm an elementary school. They want to know the number of students in my district, the number of students at my school, how many certified staff at my school, and there's just one counselor. And my school is in a rural setting. And there's about 13% of my students with an IEP. And 58% of my students receive free lunch. And here's the racial breakdown in my school and other personnel, such as my the district support people. Number 12 is the program assessment. And that was the little tool that I showed you from ASCA and the one that I use. We're going to look at the new one that ASCA has right here. And whereas the old assessment rubric is 4 pages long, the new one is very, very short and basically just asks you a yes or a no question. This is the new program assessment from ASCA, and you can find it on their webpage. And all of these are downloads. They're free. You don't have to be a member to get this information or to get the rubrics. So it starts out with how you are managing, how you deliver, how you assess. And you're just going to go through this. And when you have a yes, just put a check mark there and make some comments. So it's not as thorough as the old one, where I said the old one is from Trish Hatch's book. So for example, your mission statement, is it aligned with the ASCA's national model criteria for exemplary missionary statement? And you would mark yes, or make some comments, or maybe write some comments of something that you need to improve on it. Did you go through your school's data? Did you have that complete? And so on. You're going to go through all of these components to fill in your comprehensive school counseling program. So like I said, the old program assessment is the one that I use because I think it has more details to help you stay on track. I used it when I first came to this school, and it helped me put together my program. And I submitted this exact copy to ASCA with my reflection to show them how I was keeping track of my progress. I made notes to myself, and those notes were really important when I went back and I did my reflections. And I made notes to myself about what I could improve and what I could strengthen and how I plan to do that. So the reflection is ongoing. It's like every couple of months, I'm going to go through this and I'm going to reflect and what's working, what's not working, what can I tweak? Do I need to throw out something? Do I need to add something? All right, number 13 is surveys. So as you're going through your demographic data and getting to know your students, and you're looking at those parent surveys and climate surveys, you're going to see some of those statements on the surveys that might stick out to you. Like, wow, this is a statement that needs some improvement, or we need to work in this area. One of mine that stuck out to me when I was looking at the surveys was how much that the students hated school. Everything was about hating school, and the parents didn't like it either. The parents didn't feel welcomed into the school, or it was just, that was a concern. So when I built my student surveys, I created a student likability survey about how much they like school. So a school likability survey. And I put in there things like, I like school, I love school, I like my teachers, I like reading, I like math, I get too much homework. I put some things in there because I wanted to see what we could improve to help students like school. And, you can use a Likert scale from 1 through 5. I like using that a lot, where 1 is not much of the time and 5 is almost always or all of the time, and a 3 is sometimes. So this helps measure perception. I give perception surveys to the teachers, to the students, and to the parents, and it helps me to fine tune my program and meet the needs. I use some open-ended statements too. For example, at the end of the school likability survey, I had a statement in there, my counselor's name is, and they would fill it in with my name or the principal's name or the assistant principal's name, or they said I don't have a counselor. So I was getting some good information there. So here, that's a lot of surveys, but this data is really, really important. This data goes in your lesson plans, it goes in your annual agreement, and it's really important to show that you know your students, and you have surveyed this data. So right now, in March or right after spring break, this is something that you want to do. This is something that you can do now. You don't have to wait till the fall to do it. You want to get to know your students, go through the demographic data and see what's there, go through the surveys, and you want to create a survey and give it to the students, make a survey for the parents, and make a survey for the teachers. So this one right here, I'm going to show you this one. This is an example of a teacher survey that I made. And I did this one in my first year at this school for the teachers, but it was not given to them until the spring. Okay, and are you able to see this? Evan, did this show up okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So these are the guided questions for the teacher survey. And what I did, I met with each group of teachers as a grade level. So all the second grade teachers, all the third grade teachers, and so on. And these questions help guide our meeting together. And I asked them, what would you like to see in a counseling program next year? And what is needed in a school counseling plan? And I shared some data from the beginning of the school year, and I shared my program goals, because this school needed to see a real counseling program. And in the first year, it was still being formulated. It was still a work in progress. It was not a true counseling program in the very first year that I was there. And then number 3, what would you like to see the counselor add, delete, or change? What lessons would you like to see for your student? What would you like to see for your students in the areas of academic counseling, personal counseling, social and career counseling? And what small groups might benefit the students, and so on. So these are my raw notes. So I'm showing you, this is my scribble scratch, this is mine, and then later I typed some of this up. But this meeting was held, you can see, in April, so late in the, towards the end of the school year. These teachers asked me why I was not using this curriculum right here, Learning for Life. And I said, well, this curriculum has been discontinued by our county. And they said they needed some lessons on getting along, self-control, crying, emotions, friendship, bully prevention, and so on. So, and then the teachers did a survey like this about lessons and stuff. And this gave me a lot of information. So each grade level completed one of these surveys, and each grade level, I had a face-to-face meeting with the teachers on that grade level. And this was in my first year at the school. So in the second year, I had all of this data on what the teachers felt the needs were for this school. Okay. Then this is a sample of a student survey that I made. This one was very easy. It's just yes, no. And this is one of the first surveys I use. I need help making friends. I want help expressing my feelings. So the students just marked yes or no. This was a very simple survey. So keep good track of perception data. It will help you with lesson planning and give you more clarity and purpose. Look for the items where the students scored low or where they needed help. And for the example that I gave you, like the fifth graders really hated school, and I wanted to know more about why they hated school that much. All right, so while I'm building my program, I had to prove to my principal that we didn't really have a counseling program at the school because of where my time was going. So this is Aska's clickable link that takes you to their website that tells you how to help you build use of time. And I'm going to show you mine right here. And this is something to do now. So when you go back to school tomorrow, you can start doing this use of time survey. When you come back after spring break, you can just pick, I picked 4 weeks spread in my first year, spread over. And I went back into those 4 weeks and I picked it apart. I dissected it and made my use of time to see where my time was going and to show my principal what was happening with my time. So time in direct counseling was 37% of my time. Indirect was 37%. My non-counseling duties took 13% of my time. Fair share and lunch was 12% of my time. And then I made a little graph of that. And graphs are very easy to make. If you understand Excel spreadsheets, you can just pop the numbers in there, then you highlight it and it will make bar graphs. It will make circle graphs. It will put things in colors. You can even pick the color palettes that you want to use. So, so this was a comparison of my time from the fall to the spring of the next school year. And so I showed how my time was changing over time. So the more I was able to show my principal, and in the first year, that principal left. And in my second year at the school, we had a new principal. And I showed her this data and she started changing things, like she started seeing this data and was understanding what I was saying. When I took my non-counseling duty time, because so much of my time, 37% of my time was going right into non-counseling duties, not even counting fair share and some other things, I picked apart my non-counseling time to find out where is that time going. And most of it, you can see, was going into MRT and ESE meetings, gifted, and a little bit to my ESOL population. But this is where I was targeting my, after this breakdown in time, I was targeting how much time I was spending in ESE. And my principal, when I showed her this data, she helped me to change that. So, because I told her, I'm not even certified in ESE. I don't, my degree is in counseling. I'm really good at anxiety and depression and self-mutilation and um, suicidal ideation, and I'm a behavior expert. So just give me all the behavior problems and let the teachers teach, because I can do things to help change behavior. So without fair share and lunch, this is how my time looked. So without fair share and lunch, my non-counseling time was 15% and indirect time was 42. But if you could see this data, you could see that 42% included a lot of non-counseling time that was not direct. So these are other graphs of my time. And then this is a very specific breakdown in my time study. And I guess you have to know a little bit about my background. I have a minor in statistics in my when I was in college, and so it was just kind of fun for me. I know that sounds kind of weird, but I do kind of like that stuff. So, all right, so here we go. Now we've done that work where we did our use of time survey, and we know our students. We've got some surveys. We're figuring out some things here and there. So we're going to go on to our mission and our vision statements. So here's my mission statement. First, I went to the district counseling mission statement, and there it is. These are our district counselors and specialists. They wrote this for our district. This was my school's mission statement. And then I picked out keywords from both the district and my school, and I created the school counseling mission statement. I did the same thing for the vision statement. First, I took the district vision statement, and then I took the school's vision statement, and then I created my own vision statement. And then these things are also in the rubric, what they are looking for you to specifically have in your mission and vision statement. All right, number 2, the program goals. So here are some of my actual goals from that year, because every year I have different program goals. The data changes, so I have to change with it. So and these are SMART goals. And I hope everybody in here knows how to write a SMART goal. And if not, this is a whole workshop in itself. So goal 1 was at least 80% of 10 overage 4th and 5th graders will be out of danger from retention, from 0% on track, and promoted to the next grade based on report card grades by March 21st, 2019. And then so on. Goal 2 was about absenteeism, and goal 3 was about attendance with 5th grade students also identified on the early warning system. Okay, then I have a little narrative here, because you are going to have reflection in each component. Now remember, what you're seeing here is 2 years worth of work that I'm going through in 1 hour. So all of this was not written all at one time. They're all written in different parts, but most of this was written in the first year. The narrative was written in the second year. And this is exactly how it looked. And this is the actual document that I uploaded to ASCA. So for example, here in program goal 3 about 5th graders on the early warning systems, and these are the documents I sent with goal 3. So I sent them the early warning system data for my school. I sent them the part of that discipline data from the school improvement plan. I sent them the climate survey that I found by the parents, the teacher survey for the student needs that I did the prior year, a survey that I did with the 4th grade, a perception survey that I did with the 5th grade, the school improvement plan behavioral goals, the program goals, and the core curriculum plan. So that was the action plan that helped to meet the requirements in that goal that I had set for myself or for the students, and the involved family surveys for my school to build the counseling program. So that was a lot of data to support why I chose that goal. So that was the same for these two. They all of these goals had supporting data, and why those goals, because you have to show why you're doing all of this stuff. So the mindsets and behaviors. The mindsets and behaviors, there's a planning guide that ASCA has, and these are all of the mindsets and behaviors. These are the mindsets. There's 6 mindsets. There's 10 behaviors for learning strategies, 10 behaviors for self-management skills, and 10 social skill behaviors. If you're not used to mindsets and behaviors, this can be kind of confusing because you might be used to like the ASCA standards. So this is just a little bit different. So when you go through this and you write your program goals, the next thing you're going to do is say, what mindsets and behaviors am I going to target? So think of my keyword for the year. So my keyword for the year was responsibility. All the students need to take responsibility. So the keyword is responsibility. Our elementary school is a leadership academy, and that's our theme for magnet purposes. So responsibility just seemed to fit right in. When you go through your mindsets and behaviors, do not be overwhelmed. Only pick 2 mindsets out of all 6. Only pick 2. Only pick 2 learning strategies that you will concentrate on. Only pick 2 self-management skills, and only pick 2 social skills. Do not think that you have to do every single one of these self-management skills or every single one of these learning strategies. So what I did, I picked out the 2 in each category, and then I said, oh, for kindergarten through 5th grade, they're all going to do this. And for 4th and 5th grade, they're going to do this in the core curriculum. So CC is core curriculum, and the little ASCA codes are right up here. CC is the core curriculum, meaning when you go into the classroom and you deliver it that way. SG is when I deliver it in a small group, and CTG is when I deliver it in the closing the gap. So that could be a small group, it can be individual, however you want to deliver closing the gap, which is usually in a small group. So I put in here the small groups and the core curriculum, how I would, based on my program goals, how I would meet that at the different grade levels. And the same here. I was going to focus on time management, study and organizational skills in small groups. And I was going to apply self-motivation and self-direction to learning in the core curriculum. And for all grade levels, K to 5 and 3 to 5. So I hope that helps relieve some of that when you look at this. And do not think you have to be all over the place on this chart. You just can't. So just only pick 2. So it's going to be important at the beginning of the year, also after you write your program goals, to pick out your mindsets and behaviors. We're going to go on to number 4. And I know I have to go fast, a little bit fast through this because we only have 1 hour to go through these 10 components. So I don't want you to miss anything. The annual administrative conference. So now I have my program goals, I have my mindsets and behaviors, I have this plan in my head of how I want to deliver things, and we're still in the first quarter, and I have to meet with my principal and tell her how I want to provide counseling services for all the students in the whole school, K through 5, and what I want to do. So I'm going to start filling out this form, and ASCA has a form, but my district has their own form, which is based on the ASCA template, but it has a lot, some more details into it. So I used my district's form, and in my reflection with ASCA, I told why I was not using their template, because they want you to use their templates. I told them why I'm not using their template and why I'm using my district's template. So if you explain why you're doing something a certain way, they're okay with that. So the first part is to provide your mission statement. And there it is. So that's just copy and paste it because I already wrote it. Then I'm going to put my program goals in there. And I have, about 10 program goals every year. That's a lot. You don't need that. But if just 3 program goals for the year is fine. So here's the first program goal. Then this was also the same as my Ippy Dippy, my professional development plan. And you might have something similar to that in your county. Then here's the use of time from your time study. So where is your time going? And you pop it in here. This is also on the Ask a Model template. So you put it in here. That's why it's important to have it done. So if you have it done now, you start working on it now, it's all ready for the fall when you come in and you're ready to fill out this and have this conference with your principal. At this time, you're going to pick out the 2 dates for your advisory council. So you're going to pick one date in the fall and one date in the spring. I included other documents in my annual conference with my principal. So I show her lots of other things that are included in this. So I give her, when I sit down at this meeting, I'm giving her a whole packet of stuff. So I'm giving her this annual conference, and I'm just going to go through these pages kind of quickly, that we both sign, a list of the professional development that I'm going to have for the year. I'm also giving her a copy of my calendar for the whole year. And once you write your calendar for the year, then you're just tweaking it every other year. I'm giving her my Ippy Dippy also in this meeting. And if I have action plans written, I'm also giving her that. So right here, our district requires that we put in all the professional development that we plan to attend for that year. And then I'm marking off my responsibilities as she told me. Collaboration and responsibilities, my time and how I'll meet with parents and other people that are helping me, and then we're both going to sign that. And that was not the signed copy. I have the signed copy is in my notebook. Okay. Component number 5 is the advisory council. So at the beginning of the school year, select the dates of your meeting in the fall and the spring. And if you're having a mid-year meeting, you can include that date as well. ASCO only requires you to have a minimum of 2 meetings a year. At this time, when you start formulating your advisory council, write down the names of all the people that you would like to be in that meeting. Here's who I invite to the meeting. I will invite 25 to 30 people to my meeting because half those people will not come. So just invite everybody to come and about half will come. So when I have my advisory meetings, I will have 10 to 12 people in that meeting. I'll invite the school board member, and guess what? A school board member always comes. I'll invite at least 2 parents and 2 students. I invite we have PTO at my school. I'll invite the president to come, and she always comes. I invite the SAC chair for my school. I'll invite 2 teachers. I always get at least 1 teacher to attend. I invite the principal, the district counselor, the counselors in my vertical team, meaning the elementary, middle school, and high school counselors to come that are in our vertical team. I invite the social worker, the school psychologist, the business partners, the educational groups, the agencies, and anybody that walks in the front door. I say, hey, do you want to be a part of my advisory council and see what we're doing in our counseling program at Mamie Agnes Jones. And they're excited to be a part of that. So I have done advisory councils at every single school I've been in. And this is life-changing for your counseling program because you learn the resources in your neighborhood. You learn the resources that are around you. You learn about business partners that are looking for relationships with schools and helping with the students and families in their own community. So it's like one of the best things ever. And at first, when I was first going to do it, I was like, why do we have to do that? Why can't we just piggyback onto the SAC that we already have for a school? No, you have your own meeting. It is like the best thing. And once these people all get together in the same room, what are you doing in that meeting? You are going to show them your mission statement, your vision statement. You're going to show them your program goals, show them your mindsets and behaviors, show them that your demographic data and your survey data, what the perceptions are in your school and how you plan to change perception. How, if you have poor attendance data, what would be a plan to change that? What can we do to help kids like school? What can we do to get parents more involved? My PTO, when I started at my school, only had 2 active parents. Last year, when we had the vision and hearing screening, we were turning parents away. So many parents turned up to volunteer that we had to tell them, I'm sorry, we can't use you, but thank you for coming out. So our PTO has just grown. The parents are just coming out of the woodwork to do things for the school. We have community partners and churches and businesses that help us. When we have an event, we have people calling us and say, hey, I heard you having an event, a parent night, and nobody contacted me to come, and I want to come. And so it's just really amazing what this will do, and they see what you're trying to do for the community. So some other things are have someone to take minutes and allow everyone time to share their ideas. And once this meeting gets started and people start talking, you're just going to sit back and take notes because they're all going to share and talk, and you're going to learn so many things from them. Number 6 is calendars. So every school year, I build a calendar. It's as simple as just making the calendar on your computer program with each month. And last year and this year, I had like a little planner for the year. Every month is a page where I can block it out. And I like to color code. So blue was my in-service days, and yellow is green is testing days, and pink is something that I had to do for ESE, and so on like that. So I color coded my calendar. I do it right at the beginning of the school year. I mark out all my in-service days. I mark out all the holidays and no school days. I put my time in there for small groups and for going into the classroom. I like to have a day that I called my untouchable day. So this year, Friday is my untouchable day. And I have all individual counseling for the whole day on Friday, and I don't want anybody to interrupt that time. Yes, that time does get interrupted, but I like it to be clear with the people that I work with that that is my time to work with the students in individual counseling. I have A days and B days at my school, or A weeks and B weeks at my school, sorry. And so I will go into the classrooms to certain classrooms on A week and to other certain classrooms on B week. And I meet with all of my students every 2 weeks. So 2 times a month, I am meeting in the classrooms with all of my students. And I put that in my calendar also. So this would be my monthly calendar. The daily calendar looks a little bit different. It's broken up by the month. And then I always have my weekly calendar that shows what I'm doing every day and basically every hour. And at the beginning of every week, I give my principal and my assistant principal and the receptionist a copy of that calendar, because I want them to know how to find me. So if I am in a classroom, this is where they can find me. If I am out because of in-service or going to a workshop, they can see on the calendar that I'm going to a workshop. If I'm busy with individual counseling during that time, like what is Grace Wilhelm doing at 10 o'clock on Tuesday? She's doing individual counseling, and so on like that. They know where to find me by looking at that calendar, and they can see what's on my schedule. So ASCA just requires a calendar that looks a little bit like this, where each month you are writing down the things that you do in that month. So this would be August and September. Here's the things that, like my September things that I have to do. And October, for example, October, we're doing Unity Day, we're doing Red Ribbon Week, we're doing Jax Goes to College Week. We have a busy month in October. I'm using lessons from Spookly. At that time I had AIT meetings, but I no longer do AIT meetings. Whatever my end of the quarter activities are, that comes in October, that comes in January, and that comes in April for the end of the quarter. And things that I do weekly in that month, and things that I need to do daily and in service in that month. So these are the things on my calendar. And every year I can go through this and just tweak it and update it. It's already written. Okay, I'm going to go on to lesson plans. ASCA has a lesson plan template that they would like for you to use. Let's just look at a lesson plan here. This one is called Random Acts of Kindness and Fight Fair Strategies. So this one I do something like a lesson design. So kindergarten through 5th grade is here. When you write your mindsets and behaviors, you only need to pick 2. So for this lesson plan, I'm only working on social skills number 2 and number 3. So you're going back to your mindsets and behaviors page that I have posted next to my desk on the wall, and I can look on there and say, what goes with this lesson? Social skills 2 is create a positive and supportive relationship with other students and create relationships with adults that support success. Then I'm going to write some learning objectives about what the students will do and the materials that I will need. So because this is a lesson designed for kindergarten through 5th grade, I have kindergarten lessons, 1st grade, all the way up through 5th grade lessons here. So here's the procedures. So sometimes I'll write on along the side, like this one's specifically for kindergarten only. This one's for 5th grade. This one was a PowerPoint of nice things to say using puppets, and they acted out ways to play fair. This worked well for students in all grade levels because the scenarios changed with the grade level. So kindergarten, the ways kindergarten acts out on the playground and the way 5th grade acts out on a playground and so on. The Play Fair Strategies wheel is excellent for all grade levels. I mean, you can even do that in high school. They would love it. And then we created a paper hug, and they put nice things to say on the paper hug. And in the documentation for ASCA, I included my PowerPoint. I included the list of 100 nice things to say, pictures of the completed projects, for example, pictures of the paper plate, pictures of the paper hug. I included the lesson plan, the conflict resolution wheel, which is on the paper plate, and the climate survey, which showed the perception data and the pre and the post. And so all of that was in the lesson plan. So if you're writing the lesson plan, you pick out your mindsets and behavior, you pick out one objective or maybe two for that lesson, and you have some, why is this lesson important? And go back to your data or the demographic of your student and pick out a reason why this lesson is important. Okay, and then quickly we're going to go on to the action plans. So I don't know why it keeps popping up with that one, but okay. Let me see if I can just click this one. Nope, it's not coming up right. Here we go. This is the Ask a Lesson Plan. This is for the core curriculum action plan. And what you're putting on there is the grade level, the lesson topic, the mindset and behavior that you're working on. And remember, you're only picking from that list that you made at the beginning of the year for your mindsets and behaviors, where you're getting your curriculum, your start and end date, how many students will receive this lesson, and what data are you using for perception. So it could be a survey that you made up, it could be a survey the district made up or that the school used, your outcome data and how you're measuring effectiveness, and then the person that you will contact, which at my school, it's only me. So this is my core curriculum action plan. I'm gonna go back here. I'm a little bit of a cheater because at the beginning of the year, I put my core classroom lessons, my small group lessons, and my closing the gap lessons all on one action plan. And I'm just going to use the core curriculum action plan, but I'm putting all of it on there. Classroom, small groups, closing the gaps, and so on, just on that one sheet. And then later on in the year, and I'm using Excel spreadsheet when I do this, because that Ask a template is actually from Excel spreadsheet. And then I go back as the year goes by, then I divide it out into sections. This is curriculum for the whole classroom. This is small group, and this is small group closing the gap. So I don't worry about those categories while I am planning, but as I go along and I'm delivering those lessons, then I will go back and divide them out. I have found that that's easier to just put it all on one action plan and then go back later and divide it out. So this is an example of a small group right here. I just picked one of my small groups. So in the year that I did RAMP, I had 23 small groups that I ran in the school. And this was a small group for first grade blurters. They kept interrupting the teacher, so I created a small group for first graders who constantly interrupted their teacher. And the teacher called them blurters. So this is a little narrative of the group and why I formed the group. I used the teacher's clip chart for my data. She had a color chart where pink is the highest and red is the lowest. So because colors are kind of subjective, I gave each color a number from highest to lowest. And I used those numbers to help me measure progress with the students. So this student D, he started out with 39 points on that clip chart. And when we ended, he had 40 points. And this student M, he started out with 51 points in his baseline and he increased it to 64 points. And you can see student JO, his baseline was 28 points and he increased to 50 points. So this shows how this group was very effective. So then here is the data for each student. From January is blue and ending the group in March. So you can see the progress that every student made. So then I went a step further because here's my group. I had 5 students, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they were all boys. So I compared them with a boy reader in the class, a fluent reader, and a boy non-reader in the class. And their baseline was 62, and the boy reader, the boy who could read fluently, At the end of March, he was not in my group and he stayed the same, a 62. And the boy non-reader that I selected for comparison started out with a baseline of 62, but at the end of March, he fell to 52. Whereas students who were in the group saw significant improvement in their scores. So that was really good data. Hip, hip, hooray, small group works and helps to change. And the teacher and administration, they love seeing the data like this. And, the numbers are not lying. The small group worked for these kids, not this little one right here. And here's the 2 students that were not in the group, but used for comparison purposes. And you can see blue, how low they were in comparison to students that were not in the group. Okay, and let's go on to action plans for closing the gap. This was a group of 5th graders. I used curriculum called FACE. It's Fitness and Character Education. It's set up for 8 weeks, and there were 12 students in this group. There was like physical activity, and they had to do a little public speaking thing every week. And so what we were looking for, I measured referral data and their behavior choices, and their teachers did a rating scale on them for these different categories right here: fitness, confidence, school effort, social skills, and behavior choices. So there were 2 teachers that I used, the reading teacher and the math teacher. Each teacher rated each student. So there were 12 students in the group, so each teacher had to fill out a survey or a rating scale for 12 students. And the same 12 students. And this is what was found at the end of 8 weeks. 41% increased their conduct grade, 11% had an increase in confidence, 18% an increase in social skills, and 13% increased behavior choices. 10% of them increased their math grade. And here's the documentation that I submitted to ASCA for RAMP, the FACE data, the charts and the graphs, and the teacher perception surveys. They're pre and post surveys, because I'm not filling out the surveys. The teachers are filling out the surveys. I'm just compiling the data. Testimonials from 2 students, the FACE metrics that our school was used in on the FACE webpage. Okay, so here's the data, pre and post data. So this is like the raw data. And then here it is in a graph, and blue is pre and orange is post. So you can see that clearly there in a graph. This is the total growth of the students for all students based on pre and post data. So that is a really nice, administration loves that. If you're sharing it in your advisory council, which I did, they're going to love that, because you are affecting change. You are making changes in these students by what you do, and it affects grades, it affects perception and liking school. And this was growth by category for each of the categories: fitness, confidence, school effort, social skills, and behavior choices. Here's their conduct grade, and a 1 is a D, a 2 is a C, and so on. A 4 is an A, because I can't take the letters and measure them, so I have to measure everything in numbers. And there was the conduct total had an increase from 29 to 41 points. That is awesome. Any teacher is going to love to see that. And this was the conduct grade for each student from a comparison of Q1 to Q2, which looks really awesome. And here's how their math grade looked. And they're low to begin with, but you can see the progress is there. Some of them went up a whole grade in math. And here's how the math looks in a colored chart. The total changes in math grade for all students. The reading grades dropped down a little bit. Okay, so here's some other things to know. If you are confused on any of these things, if you're new to lesson plans, if you've never written them before, that's about a 1 to 3 hour workshop, depending on how much help you need with lesson plans. action plans. Learning how to write action plans is a 3-hour workshop. Most people can fill out the action plans. You just look at that data, but sometimes there's confusion with perception data and outcome data and data collection and calendars, the yearly calendar, the monthly calendar, weekly calendar, and how to divvy out your time on a daily basis and plan ahead. And if you want more details as you go, a ramp workshop is usually a 1 6-hour day workshop, and sometimes it's a 2-day 6-hour workshop. So that just gives you an idea of how much in-service time you need to get into ramp. Okay, and that's like an hour. And we went over all the components and how to get started. So now you know how to get started, tomorrow or after spring break, and just jump right in there with your survey data and your demographics, and don't be afraid of it. Just get right in there. Do not wait until the fall. Go ahead and start working on it now.
Miss Wilhelm, thank you so much for such an incredible, all-encompassing presentation on achieving RAM. I was engaged the entire time, and I know that our audience was as well. I actually got a question as you were presenting from Megan, who's wondering if we will be able to get a copy of the document being presented.
Yes, I will. Yes, you can have a copy of this document.
Great. Thank you very much. Genevieve gave us some input. Data is your best friend. You want changes, so collect that data. And Lucy gives a ditto with, and I agree, Genevieve. And a lot of thank yous for your presentation. Lucy is wondering if, can we contact you if we have additional questions?
Sure, that's fine. My school number at work is 904-266-1214, extension 4. You can also contact me at email. It's wilhelmg@duvalschools.org.
Perfect. And a huge thank you to Renix for making sure that stuff gets posted into our chat. Donette, this is intense, but it seems like once you get the hang of it all, it is achievable.
It is. And the best thing about it, it gives you a plan, and it's a written plan, and it gives you a lot of structure. So every year I have a brand new ramp notebook. Every year I have a notebook. So this year I have a notebook. It's not as full as my notebook from the other year because I have a friend in, this is one of my friends that helps to reduce paperwork. So, I can carry it wherever I go. I keep it locked up. I keep this one locked up in a taped up envelope so it doesn't get lost. Because 3 times in my life, I have lost everything on my desktop because of computer issues or hard drive crashes.
Mm-hmm.
And right after I submitted the ramp application in October for my school, about a month after that, I had a hard drive crash and I lost everything, all of those charts and diagrams, the survey data, everything. And I asked ASCA if I could have a copy of all of the components and the data and the documentation that I submitted to them, and they gave me everything. They gave me a copy of everything. That was awesome.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Another question from Holly. Have you worked in a school with additional counselors who may not be as enthusiastic as you are to get ramped?
Yes.
And the process of navigating that, how does that go?
Okay, I think like a lot of us as counselors, we are doing a lot of these things.
Mhm.
I think the biggest pushback that I feel is when it comes time to do the annual conference, the administrative agreement, that because some counselors don't want to talk with their principals about it. They just want to do, if you need me to be test coordinator, I'm going to be test coordinator. If you want me to do this for hall duty and bus duty and all of it, they're just going to do whatever their principal asks and not create any waves. And, sometimes that's hard. So, and it's not so much about creating a wave, it's telling them what you do, what a counselor does, what a counselor does for the school, the personal social counseling that is needed for all students, especially now in this crucial time, and the academic counseling, the tie-in to academics with career counseling. Let's give school a purpose. And when students see what is out there for careers, and even when you get a job, you still have on-the-job training and coursework that you have to do. And I like to tie purpose into education, into their academics for reading and math with career education. And I had a conversation one time with my principal about why career education. And I said, the middle school and the high school, our vertical teaming high school has a drones program where high school students can get their drones pilot license. And when they graduate from high school, they can have a drones pilot license. And did you know that drone operators are making $100,000 a year? And these kids are good at video games, and we can show them all the careers that are tied into drones. And we're a STEM school. And then I'll list some careers that are, STEM. I'll talk about the career clusters. And so now every year I have 4 lessons a year for all grade levels, for each grade level, kindergarten through 5th grade, on career education. I also tie it in with character education, like being responsible at work, being responsible at school, respect at work, respect at school. I'll tie it into drones, like drones with real estate and landscaping and emergency care. If there's a car accident out here, they'll send drones to come out and see what's going on at the car accident site. The drone can get there before a helicopter. The drone can get there before an ambulance and send information and pictures to the people that are in the ambulance on their way. Drones are sending, medical parts, transplants, blood. Drones are sending out packages. Amazon's using drones. Drones are just used for everything. So I will tie in big time to drones and STEM careers. And when my principal hears all of this information, when I first started having these conversations with her, she was just really excited because she didn't realize all these things that were happening out in the career world and how much money could be made just from having a license that you could get in high school. And it's not just drone pilots, it's the software that goes with drones, it's the technology, the repairs, the drone repairs. So all of the industry connected to drones is being affected as well.
Jeannie and Holly agree that they love your notebook and your color coding. Chandra says that this was very informative. Thank you. And Donette echoes that, as does Latrivia. But Donette was wondering, does each counselor in the department complete the annual agreement, or is it just one agreement for the department?
It is, each counselor is required to complete it. So that's where you might have some pushback from one counselor who does not want to do it if they consider it extra paperwork, but you need to consider it as part of your framework and what the counselors will be required to do, so to speak, your agreement. So things, kind of don't change on you in the middle of the school year. For me, it helped me to make systemic changes in my school. For example, in the first year, I was the attendance and truancy coordinator. But in the second year, after showing my principal the data, and I told her that the counseling program is preventative in design, and why would we want to waste resources trying to fix things when we can prevent them in the first place? And that was the key seller to her. So now I have a huge prevention program for truancy. I have a huge, which cuts down our absenteeism, and we have increased our attendance by 158% in the first year of our prevention program. We have cut referrals to like basically to nothing. So I had a small group of 7 students with the most referrals in the whole school. So my number 1 student, who had 47% of all the referrals on his grade level, all of you have one like that, don't you? This year, he has no referrals. So that shows you small group and individual counseling intervention is the key, because he has made changes. And then my number 2 student as well, he has only received 1 referral this school year. I have to be so proud of them, but I do give my principal credit because she has allowed me to have these ideas. And here's what I can do, because the teachers need to teach. And I'm the behavior expert, and I'm going to help these kids make behavior changes. I'm using behavior modification and techniques, and helping them to feel the change, know what it's like, the physiological changes, know what it's like when it's coming, so they can ask for timeout, so that they can be responsible for themselves, and do things to take care of their behavior before it escalates.
Well, that's really great. Once again, Ms. Wilhelm, thank you so, so much for joining us this evening on behalf of the Florida School Counselor Association and our Professional Development Committee. A huge thank you
Thank you
also
so much
goes
for
out
having me.
to our participants for joining us. So I'm going to go ahead at this time and take a second to post our feedback link for tonight's presentation. So if you would, please click on this link and fill out our brief survey just to give us some feedback on how this evening went. And a reminder that this presentation will be posted on the Florida School Counselor Association's website, along with a copy of today's presentation and the chat. So thank you all for joining us, and we'll be on the lookout for you at our next webinar, Computing for Counselors, coming up next week on Thursday, March 4th at 7:30 p.m. So thank you guys once again. Ms. Wilhelm, amazing, amazing, amazing. Can't say enough great things about this evening. So thank you all, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Okay, and thank you so much. Thank you, Evan, for moderating. You did an awesome job.
Of course, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Take care, Ms. Wilhelm.
Thank you, you too. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.